your world hasn't changed. You've been chanting for years, maybe decades, and the people around you, the circumstances, the weight of what you carry, it holds its shape. Most answers you'll find tell you to chant more, chant deeper, have more faith, trust the process. That is not an answer, but a deflection. Shakyamuni Buddha gave a precise answer to this question, not a comfort, but a mechanism. And that answer begins with a problem you didn't know you had. The map of reality you are using is wrong. Every practitioner who tells me their environment won't change is describing the environment as something outside of themselves, a container, a stage, a world that exists independently, waiting to respond. That is the assumption Shakyamuni spent his entire teaching career dismantling. In the Samyutta Nikaya, he was asked a direct question about the world: where it begins, where it ends, whether it can be reached by traveling through space. His answer located the world entirely within the body of the one asking the question. Not as a metaphor, but in fact as a precise phenomenological claim about where reality is generated. This is where the doctrinal chain begins, and this is where your understanding of why your world won't change has to start. Not with your practice, but with your definition of the world itself. There was a man named Rohitassa. In a previous life, he was an ascetic with a power that almost no human being has ever possessed. He could travel through space, not metaphorically, physically, from the Eastern Ocean to the Western Ocean in a single stride. And yet, traveling at the speed of an arrow, stopping only to eat, to sleep, to breathe. He died before he reached the end of the world. He came to Shakyamuni with that failure still on him, and he asked, "Is there a place anywhere in the world where there is no birth, no aging, no death? Can it be reached by traveling?" Shakyamuni said no. The end of the world cannot be reached by traveling. And then he said something that changes everything about how you understand your environment. Yet it is just within this Fathom-Long Body, with its perception and intellect, that I declare that there is the cosmos, the origination of the cosmos, the cessation of the cosmos, and the path of practice leading to the cessation of the cosmos. The cosmos, its origination, its cessation, the path leading to its cessation, all of it located within the body. This is not a spiritual metaphor about inner peace. Shakyamuni was making a precise epistemological claim. The world, what you perceive as your environment, is generated at the point of contact between your 6 sense organs and their objects: eye, ear, nose, tongue, body, mind. Where those 6 organs meet their objects, that is where the world arises, not outside, at the boundary. And this is where dependent origination enters. Paticca samuppada. The mechanism Shakyamuni used to explain how the world is continuously generated and why it stays the same. The world arises in dependence on conditions: craving, clinging, the mental formations that run beneath conscious awareness. When those conditions are present, the world arises in the same form. When they cease, the world ceases with them. This is the mechanism behind environmental stasis. The practitioner who chants without shifting the underlying cognitive conditions maintains the same dependent arising, the same craving, the same clinging, the same world. Shakyamuni was not telling Rohitassa that peace is found within. He was telling him that the world itself, as a generated phenomenon, has its origin and its cessation in the same place, the Fathom-Long Body. That is the foundation. Everything Zhiyi built, everything Nichiren applied, it stands on this. Shakyamuni located the world within the body. That established the foundation. What Tian-te master Zhiyi did 6 centuries later was build the architecture on top of it. Zhiyi was the founder of the Tian-te school in 6th century China. His central doctrine was ichinen sanzen, 3,000 realms in a single moment of life. The number 3,000 sounds like an abstraction. It is not. It is the product of a precise calculation. 10 realms, each containing all 10, multiplied by 10 factors of existence across 3 integrated domains. Those 3 domains are the realm of the 5 components: form, perception, conception, volition, consciousness. The realm of living beings, the individual as a relational entity among others, and the realm of the environment. That 3rd domain is what concerns us here. In the framework of ichinen sanzen, the environment is not a container that holds the practitioner. It is one of 3 mutually inclusive dimensions of a single thought moment. What this means in practice, the realm of the 5 components, the realm of living beings, and the realm of the environment arise simultaneously. They are not sequential. The environment does not follow the mind. It is the mind, extended into its 3rd domain. Zhiyi used the Lotus Sutra as his doctrinal basis, specifically the teaching of Shoho Jiso, the true aspect of all phenomena. Shoho Jiso states that all phenomena are endowed with 10 suchnesses: appearance, nature, entity, power, action, cause, conditions, effect, recompense, and consistency from beginning to end. Every phenomenon, including the environment, is perfectly endowed with all 10 of these factors simultaneously. The environment has appearance, it has cause, it has effect, it has consistency from beginning to end. This is the foundation Zhiyi used to prove that the environment is not passive. It is a fully endowed domain of reality, structured, causal, and inseparable from the life of the being who inhabits it. And here is where Esho Funi enters, the principle of the oneness of life and environment. Esho Funi is not an independent philosophy. It is the logical consequence of ichinen sanzen. Because all 3 domains, the 5 components, living beings, and the environment, arise simultaneously within a single life moment, the separation between the one who practices and the world they practice in is a cognitive construction. Miao Le, the Tian-te commentator, stated it directly. All living beings and their environment are nothing but 3,000 realms in a single moment of mind. When we realize this, we reach the fundamental truth that the minds of all living beings pervade the entire Dharma realm. The practitioner's environment is not a test. It is a report, a real-time readout of the life condition generating it. Zhiyi built the architecture. Nietzsche then took it and applied it to something that every practitioner since the 13th century has had to reckon with: a world in collapse. In 1260, Japan was breaking apart. Earthquakes, famine, epidemic. The physical environment of an entire nation was in visible collapse. And the question every religious institution was failing to answer was the same question you are asking now. Why won't it change? Nichiren Daishonin was 39 years old. He had spent 2 decades studying every school of Buddhism in Japan, and his conclusion was precise. The environment was not collapsing because of random misfortune. It was collapsing because of what the people collectively held in mind. He wrote the Risshō Ankoku Ron on securing the peace of the land through the propagation of true Buddhism, and submitted it to the Kamakura government. The argument he made was not political, it was doctrinal. It was the direct application of Shakyamuni's Rohitassa Sutta and Zhiyi's ichinen sanzen to a national environment. Nichiren's position was this: the widespread rejection of the Lotus Sutra, the fundamental teaching on the true nature of life, was generating the environmental collapse directly. The collective inner state of the nation was the body. The earthquakes, the famine, the epidemic, those were the shadow. He stated it in the Risshō Ankoku Ron without ambiguity. Quickly reform the tenets you hold in your heart. If you wish tranquility for yourself, you must first pray for the peace of the world. This is ichinen sanzen operating at national scale. The 3 domains, 5 components, living beings, environment, are not limited to the individual body. They scale. One practitioner's ichinen generates one environment. The collective ichinen of a nation generates the national environment. Nichiren also addressed this in his letter on the oneness of life and environment directly. He wrote, "The 10 directions are the environment, and living beings are life." To illustrate, environment is like the shadow, and life, the body. Without the body, no shadow can exist. Without life, no environment. The shadow and the body. That is the complete answer to why your world won't change. The practitioner who looks at their environment and asks why it hasn't changed is looking at the shadow and asking why it doesn't move. The body has not moved. Nichiren applied this to an entire nation in political crisis. The mechanism is identical at the level of a single practitioner and their immediate environment. The scale changes. The principle does not. So here is where the doctrinal chain lands. Shakyamuni located the world within the Fathom-Long Body. Zhiyi proved that the environment is one of 3 integrated domains of a single life moment. Nichiren demonstrated that collective inner state generates collective environment, and that the mechanism for change is the recalibration of what is held in mind. This is not a 3-part philosophical timeline. It is one continuous argument about where reality is generated and how it changes. Now, what does this mean for the practitioner sitting in front of the Gohanzen, whose environment has not moved? It means the question itself has to change. The wrong question is, why hasn't my environment responded? That question treats the environment as a separate entity waiting to react. It positions the practitioner as someone making a request of an external system. The correct understanding is this: the environment is the current readout of the life condition generating it. It is accurate. It is not resistant. It is precise. Chanting Namo Myoho Renge is not a petition. It is not a request submitted to a force outside yourself, asking it to rearrange your circumstances. It is the ontological recalibration of the body casting the shadow. When the body moves, the shadow moves. There is no delay in that relationship. There is no resistance in that relationship. The shadow is not a separate entity that needs convincing. The Kanjin Honzon-sho states it precisely. All living beings and their environment are nothing but 3,000 realms in a single moment of mind. The environment is not a consequence of the mind. It is a dimension of it. This is what Nichiren meant when he wrote in the Risshō Ankoku Ron, "Quickly reform the tenets you hold in your heart, not your behavior, not your circumstances, the tenets, the foundational cognitive conditions that generate the world you inhabit moment by moment." The practitioner who understands this stops asking why the shadow won't move. They stop petitioning the environment. They turn their full attention to the body casting it, to the ichinen, the single life moment, the only place where the world has ever been generated. That is absolute agency, not the power to force the world to comply. The understanding that the world was never separate from the one practicing. Shakyamuni said the cosmos, its origination, its cessation, and the path to its cessation exists within this fathom-long body. He said it to Rohitassa 2,500 years ago. He was saying it to you. If this is the first time you are hearing Shakyamuni's direct teaching on the environment, the video on why he rejected the bodhisattvas goes deeper into his original doctrine and why Nichiren built everything on top of it. That video is here.